Very good evening to all of you. Warm welcome to Webstack Academy's Masterclass Webinar. And today we are hosting the second Masterclass Webinar. And today's topic is, whatever is the, popular or widely spoken topic, artificial intelligence. So before we get into that, at a high level, let me explain the structure of the webinar. People who are attending for first time. So first 10 to 15 minutes, I'll speak, introducing Webstack Academy, introducing our speaker, and then after that, today's speaker, Mr. Renganathan, will take over, and he will be, engaging you for about 1.5 hours time. And then after that, we will be coming back again. I'll be taking back the control of the webinar again, and then we'll be running the quizzes, right? So quiz typically we run as a part of to motivate all of you. So we'll keep the quiz open for at least for another day, at least 24 hours. I'll tell you how to take the quiz in detail towards the end. And please note, you can only take the quiz only if you put a coupon code correctly, okay? Because we don't want anybody to take the quiz, right? Only people who are attended the webinar only should be taking the quiz, right? So we give you a coupon code. So you need to wait for the coupon code towards the end of the webinar. I'll share that. So then subsequently you can take the test using the coupon code, right? And winners of the quiz will be getting some exciting goodies from our team, and also we'll be publishing your photos in our website and social media. And all the participants today who are attending the webinar will get a participation certificate. Please note, guys, the certificates are goodies, and quizzes is mainly to motivate you people, right? Otherwise, it looks like a pretty much discussion type of thing. We also want to keep it little informal, little like a very lightweight, at the same time very intensive learning experience for all of you guys. But at the same time, we want to have some fun, right? So request all of you to stay towards the end. And I already discussed with the speaker, right? Because of the way contents are going, we are planning till 9 p.m. 7 to 9 is our regular time. In case if it slips by 10-15 minutes, I request you to stay in the webinar, right? Don't drop out just because it's 9 p.m. right? So what I will be doing once I hand over to the speaker, I'll also pause him time to time and take questions. So you can feel free to type the questions in the chat window. Anytime you have any question, you don't need to wait. As he's presenting, anything that comes to your mind. In WS system, we say no question is a wrong question, no question is a stupid question, right? Every question will be answered with its merit, but it's important that you guys ask, right? Just type the question in your chat window. I'll pause in between whenever our speaker is presenting, and then I'll read that question on behalf of you so that he can answer, right? That's going to be the protocol. And where to get the coupon code? Avinash Jai is asking, already is excited. As I already told you, I'll be giving it towards the end of the webinar. What if I leak the climax in the beginning itself, right? So it will be coming towards the end. So watch out for that, okay? So with that, let me get started to introduce WSA and our speaker to you guys. So people know, for example, WSA, we have been in the EdTech segment for more than almost like 20 years. So we started our original concept, of skilling and also, making engineers employable way back in the year 2004, started by my friend Maz. That's how our original idea of Emergy came in. So Emergy is still existing very much. We are about 150 member organization, primarily doing embedded systems and IoT based training programs, targeting the engineering students and also working professionals, right? And we established ourselves very well in the embedded side, and around 2008-9 timeline is when we started diversifying. And that time, if you see, right, it was more of Java and Oracle, or you can say the Sun Microsystems got acquired by Oracle, and it became a certification based program and all. So during those times, we used to run some training programs for some international students. They used to come from South Korea. So for them, we used to run certain long-term programs, training programs. So that's how our association with application-based training started. Then we became an Oracle workforce development partner in the year 2013. Then we thought, as times progressed, the full stack web development became more famous or more prominent as companies started adapting the full stack type of roles. That's when we created the brand called Webstack Academy, even though Emergy still remains as a parent company. So we carved out a new brand just to ensure that we have a different domains or different brands for different expertise. And then we launched around 2017-18. It ran quite well. We trained good number of students, and then we placed some of them. And what happened is the pandemic hit, right? So then we kind of pivoted from that and completely focused on embedded. Now we are coming back, right? Our full-time courses are yet to be launched. I'll probably talk about it towards the end of the program. But in the meantime, we are running internship programs, online internship programs for the engineering college students, which got over I think a couple of weeks back. The programs will be next program will be running very shortly, and we are running this masterclass webinar every month. I guess last month similarly we had a talk by Mr. Hitesh about the front-end development career path, right? So that's what we are doing as of now. Okay. So at a high level, as I already mentioned, what problem we are solving? One, we are making engineers employable, especially engineering students who are from Tier 2 and Tier 3, who need to be skilled and coached in order for them to end up in an employment. That's problem number one. Second challenge that we see is, even though people get into a job, but they may not get into a job what they like, right? They might have studied something, but they are doing something, right? Or somebody is working in a legacy technology, but they want to come into new age product development technology like Masterclass, right? So we upskill them, give them the profile, outlook, and then give a new outlook, and then help them to get into a job, right? So that's what we do as an organization. And now coming to our leadership team, three of us are part of Emerzy's leadership team. Maz, who is a founder of Emerzy, he started Emerzy, and me and Mubin joined him after our corporate careers. For example, I spent about 12.5 years working with a startup called Ishoni Networks. Then I spent about 7.5 years with HP, then 3.5 years with Huawei. After 12.5 years, I joined Emerzy as one of the core leadership team member in an entrepreneurial mode. So we three pretty much own the company. And then along with me, Mubin joined just before me, a couple of years before. He was also with me. He was my colleague in HP, and we joined. So at currently, what we do, Emerzy as well as WSA, I run the placements and all these outbound programs, right? So that's what we do as a leadership team. We're about 150 people company put together, Emerzy and WSA. So if the WSA team is just building up, right? We're building a team of instructors. We're building a placement team, etc., etc. Right? That's what we are doing as of now with respect to WSA, right? Now let us come back to masterclass webinars. Why we are doing this masterclass webinars, right? In every webinar, I tell this very simple to understand. To understand is 2 M's. Okay. So what are the 2 M's, right? So when we look around young engineers, by the way, I'm also young. So when I say fresh engineers who are coming from the college or having this 1 to 3 years experience, right? There's a huge gap in terms of mentoring them or giving them the right guidance, with respect to their career. Okay, people are confused, or many times they get misinformation about certain technologies, certain trends, etc., because of which they end up taking wrong decision. So what we are saying, because of the wrong decision, they're not able to achieve the full potential what an individual can. So that's the inspiration for all of us to host this masterclass webinars, to bring in people who are working in various companies, who are having a real deep knowledge about what they're doing. And of course, they're really passionate about sharing the knowledge with a broader audience like today's, right? So that's what we do. So whenever we run this masterclass webinars, we tell our speakers also, including to the speakers, right? Present the information, present the data to them, and let the people decide their decision as they move forward. So this is not going to be saying that, say, today I attend a webinar on AI, so tomorrow I'll become an AI engineer. That's not the idea. So it will be covering a very broad aspects of AI, so that the second M happens, right? What is the second M? Motivation, right? Always we all require that push, or we require that particular inspiration, so that you can start taking the action, right? It may not be today, right? It may not be tomorrow, but maybe 6 months down the line, 1 year down the line, right? You can achieve what you wanted to do. So that's a whole and soul purpose which we run these webinars. And as I said, to keep the motivation high, we run all the certificates and quizzes and goodies to ensure that you guys are very much pepped up, right? So this video is getting recorded already, and next week you can expect the recorded video will be reaching your inbox, and also the slide deck our speaker is going to share today, that also will be bundled. We'll be putting up in a link in our website so that you can download and reuse it, or you feel that it will be useful for your friends or family, right? Please feel free to forward, right? We'll be putting this video in the YouTube in our WSA channel, and then anybody you feel they can get benefited, you can feel free to go ahead and share them, right? So with that note, let me come to the final slide before I hand over the dais to our speaker today. So today's topic is going to be on career building in AI, right? So AI, if you see, right, anywhere and everywhere you go, the word AI is buzzing, and when we see this AI, this becomes like a too big a maze for all of us to navigate, right? Where to start, where to end. If you go and talk to a banker, he talks about AI. You go to e-commerce guy, he talks about an AI. You go and talk about embedded systems guy, he talks about an AI, right? So AI has become a very big maze, right? So it makes sense for us to navigate this maze from the three angles. One is that we're all engineers, including our speaker today, even though he's done his MBA, right? So first of all, we need to understand the technology and where the high-level trends are heading, right? So that we all get a big picture about where it is heading. And third part is the opportunities, right? Where are the opportunities are opening up, and then where, so that I can start my career, right? Or anybody who's aspiring to start the career can look into, right? So those are the three dimensions we are going to talk about. Our speaker is going to talk about. So for this purpose, let me warm welcome today's speaker. I think he's already there in the video. You can see Renganathan Sekar. Very warm welcome to the webinar, Ranga. So thank you very much for accepting our invitation. I know you're a busy man on the personal side as well as on the professional side, and you've been traveling also, for your work later. So thank you very much for accepting our invitation. Just a quick intro about Ranga, what I know of. He will talk about more. So he's an engineer like all of us. He did his engineering, worked in the manufacturing or the mechanical industry initially. Then he moved to Germany, did his master's there in engineering again. And he worked there and then moved to Korea. He worked there sometime, came back to India again and did his MBA from IIM Bangalore, where he was one of the outstanding students there. He got his gold medal there, right? And then he joined, Samsung as a product manager in the AI products. So he's driving the roadmap and the engineering features in the Samsung's product lines. In fact, that's one of the key components that he's going to talk about. In case if you're having a Samsung cell phone or planning to buy down the line, or you plan to upgrade your Android, right? What are the new things that's going to come up, right? So that's Ranga's forte. And when we requested, he immediately said yes. So thank you very much, Ranga, for your accepting our invitation. So what I will do now, I will just make you as a speaker, and then I will hand it over to you so that you can start. Give me a minute. Yeah, I made you as a presenter, Ranga.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is my screen visible?
Yes, it is.
So you're seeing which one, the PowerPoint or?
Yeah, PowerPoint. Yes, career building in AI. Right.
Okay, perfect. Okay. Thank you so much.
So
and
thank you very much, all of
audible,
you.
Right?
Yeah, I'll just take a minute. So thank you very much, all of you. So I'll go off the video. I will listen to Ranga, take some notes, and as I requested all of you, please feel free to type questions. I will collate. I'll pause Ranga, in maybe 20-30 minutes once, right, so that I can answer those queries, right? So over to you, Ranga. Thank you very much once again for your presence. Please go ahead. Stage is all yours.
Thank you so much. I can't thank you enough also. And firstly, I'm very excited to be here. It's more than just the topic. This topic is I'm very, very passionate about. That is one thing. But the most important thing is it's always exciting for me to be with fresh engineers, as Jacob said. And I'll also explain why I chose to do this activity, because something is very close to my heart that WSA is doing. So you'll get to know about it very, very soon during the slides. So with this, I'll get started. And a disclaimer. So I'm also a lifelong student like you. So please don't hesitate. Whenever you have any questions, just type in the chat, as he said. And let's make this more like an interactive session than just me talking something. So let's all be passionate and be motivated so that we get the best out of the 2 hours. So with this, I'll get started. So yeah, as we said, right, nowadays artificial intelligence, everyone talks about it. So that has to be, as an engineer, we have to know what it is being spoken about and the basic terms and where it is applied and stuff like that, the potential of it, and whether it's all hype or there is some reality in it. So let's understand, let's break down all the myths and then the concepts here in this webinar. So I'll get started. So just a brief about me. I did my mechanical engineering in PhD Tech Coimbatore. You can see there are a lot of ups and downs in the picture. It's not just in the picture, it's representative of my life as well. So after the mechanical engineering and PhD Tech, I worked as an engineer in Volvo Trucks India in the aftermarket. Basically, I was fixing problems in the heavy duty Volvo trucks. But I wanted to do something else, which I discovered slowly later when I was working. So I decided and applied to a simulation course in Germany where I did my master's. So this was more in the software side of mechanical engineering where I did my master's. And I also worked there as a research associate in WZL Germany, which is a famous research institute there. While working there, I encountered a spin-off in South Korea. Spin-off is basically a small company that has been taken out from a university or a startup or something like that. So that company name is MFRC South Korea. So I lived there for almost 5 years in South Korea, where we developed software to simulate all these manufacturing processes. So basically, I'm a mechanical engineer, but then my heart was always towards software, building things in the software side. But application was more on the mechanical and automotive side. So 5 years went away. Then I thought, okay, it's time to upskill myself, and I also wanted to come back to India. And in the meanwhile, I also developed passion towards Android app development. If you see outside work, I started learning Android app development somewhere in 2016 or 17, and I got hooked to it so much. I started publishing a lot of apps, the small ecosystem parts and everything. I got so interested that I started developing some passion towards the products in the mobile space. And that's when slowly around 2019, 2020, the motivation started. So I thought maybe I should move myself into the product space, and hence I did my MBA in IIM Bangalore. And then fortunately, I was able to get a job in Samsung as a product manager in the AI space. So now, when during the start of the session, I said that one topic is really close to my heart that WSA does. So especially if you have noticed Jack Ma speaking. So the second problem that they are solving, upskilling, it's super important, guys, in your career. So it doesn't matter whether you are a gold medalist or you are the topper of the class. Let me tell you a secret right away. Marks don't matter. You all know already, but still I'm saying that. The only thing that matters in your career is upskilling, right? So you keep upskilling yourself again and again. I'm telling you, like, nobody is gonna stop you from growing in terms of career, in terms of salary, and everything. So that's why when he explained about that problem statement, and I was also going to the website earlier. So when they asked about this webinar, I immediately agreed because this is something that's very close to my heart. And another thing that he spoke about, right, the 2Ms. Like usually the MBA students talk about 3Ps or 5Ps or 2Ms. So I was happy to see that he's also using a similar terminology. He said 2Ms, mentoring and motivation. So at the stage where you are right now, I think mentoring and motivation does a world of good to you. So I'm so happy that you folks are getting that opportunity here. So with this, yeah, outside work, I like to create a lot of stuff, like to build something and like sort of experiment it in the real world and see whether I'm able to sell what I'm building. So as a part of this mentality, I've also created some course in Udemy, and I've also published a book in Amazon. Basically, it's more like an experiment. The monetary aspect is fine, but it's more like I do some A/B testing and see, okay, if I change the description, is the sales increasing? If I change the way I speak, or if I change the thumbnails. So it's basically some experiments that keep me very busy and happy in the weekends. Otherwise, I also play football and I invest in small cap stocks. So this is the brief about me. So let's get into the topic now. So today we have 6 sections here. So whenever you have any questions, just feel free to type in the chat, and we'll make it more interactive. So it's like the first section will talk about an overview of AI, and the main question, right? Some people say it must be high, right? Come on, everyone is talking about this, but I'm not seeing anything on the ground reality. So is it really high, or is something happening there? So that is section 2. Section 3 is where we'll look at some specific examples of what Samsung is doing. And section 4 will break down the layers, components, and the tech stack. Obviously, we are engineers, so we want to get into the nuts and bolts of AI. And we'll also look at some emerging trends in AI. And finally, the skills and opportunities, like the actionable insights that we can take from this way. So let's get started with the overview of AI. So basically, guys, you have to remember this hierarchy or the subset. Okay. So artificial intelligence is a broader campus. So you can see that it's the science and engineering of making intelligent machines. So basically, the computer programs earlier were fully driven by a specific or a well-defined routine or a logic. Right? Now we are making these programs more intelligent. So that's what artificial intelligence is all about. And artificial intelligence sort of encompasses both machine learning as well as deep learning. So the machine learning is nothing but it's a subset of AI that provides all the systems the ability to learn and improve from experience. So you don't have to explicitly program each and every aspect of it. It sort of self-learns and improves from its own experience. Don't worry, I have a lot of examples and practical use cases. We'll talk about it in the subsequent slides. So when it comes to machine learning, so it sort of deals with algorithms that can look at data to learn from it and then make predictions accordingly. So pointer. And the next subset here is the deep learning aspect. So it's again, deep learning is a subset of machine learning that is based on a feature learning. Basically, it tries to learn the data representations instead of going on a task-based algorithm. So this terminology is very important because since we are engineers, we have to be very clear of the terms and terminologies that we are using. So that gives a very good impression when you go and present yourself in front of other industry experts. So let's all keep this definition clearly in mind and move on. So artificial intelligence broadly has like 3 umbrellas. So the stuff that you see on screen, it's nothing like textbook stuff. It's all very broadly defined. There could be some approximations here and there, but for getting a broader exposure into the topic, I guess this is fine. So inside artificial intelligence, you have machine learning, where there are 3 types, right? It could be supervised learning, unsupervised learning, or the reinforcement learning. We'll look into the examples one by one. Then we have the robotics division, right, where there are multiple types of robotics. I think this will be out of scope of today's webinar, so we'll not touch much into it. Then we have the artificial neural networks. Right? The name sounds complicated, but we'll try to demystify as much as possible. So inside artificial neural networks, you have deep learning, and then CNN, which is a convolutional neural networks, and you also have RNN, recurrent neural networks. So let's drill down this further in the subsequent slides and understand. Okay, so what is machine learning? Can any one of you type some responses in the chat? We can have a look at it. Like a very basic understanding of what you think machine learning is. Meanwhile, I'll explain. So basically, it tries to enable computers to act without explicit programming. So I guess if you have done some sort of programming, you know that you try to write, you follow the syntax of the programming language and sort of make instructions in that particular language, right? So in the case of machine learning, you don't do explicitly program what the computer needs to do. But what you do instead is you design some new learning algorithms as well as improve the existing learning algorithms. Okay. So to do this, what do you need? You need large volumes of data. As in, you need the data of different scenarios so that you can make some sense out of those data and then make some patterns out of that data and then predictions and adjustments, do some predictions. Basically, like people who have done some, who have seen some screens in stock market. So you see that the price keeps moving every second or every minute based on the trading volume. So basis the history of the stock price movement, you try to do something in the future, right? So these sort of algorithms, basically, you are trying to enable computers without explicitly programming the rules, but instead you are trying to design new learning algorithms. Basically, this is what is machine learning. Now, so if you try to illustrate a machine learning process, right, in terms of a flow chart, so it all starts with the training data. So this training data could be anything. Like for example, I'll give you. So I work in the the voice assistant product of Bixby. Okay, so for us, the training data would be some audio recording or some things like that, right? So the data could be anything. It could be text, it could be audio, it could be video. So it could be anything. So that training data is first fed into the algorithm, right? So this algorithm is basically the machine learning, right? So machine learning can be, as I told you before, it could be any type. It could be either supervised machine learning, or it could be unsupervised learning, or it could also be reinforcement learning. So supervised learning, we'll go into this in detail, but just a glimpse of it. Supervised learning means you have a specified input as well as an output, right? So that is, it's sort of, as the name says, it's very supervised. And in terms of unsupervised, basis your past experiences, you sort of recognize the patterns. And finally, in reinforcement learnings, you do trial and error, right? And then it's like more like carrot and stick. So trial and error. If you succeed, you give a reward. If you don't succeed, you give a punishment to the model, so that it sort of learns on itself and then keeps that learning intact and then applies it in the subsequent steps. Sort of, this is sort of what is happening inside a machine learning algorithm, and then that learning is applied to new data. So whatever new use case or scenario you give, so this entire learning is applied there, and then the output is processed. So this is sort of a cycle that happens inside a machine learning process. So basically, when people say machine learning process, so and they ask them questions, you can easily drill down to which part they are talking about. So is it about the data? Because each one of it is a separate portion in itself, right? So in big companies like Samsung or Google, so there are thousands of people working on individual departments. Inside data, there are thousands of people, and then machine learning, there are so many engineers working on it, and then trying to visualize the data that the algorithm spits out, so many people are working on it. So at this point, you can just understand the overall flow of how things are happening inside. So now let's go slightly deeper. So the first few slides might look a bit bookish. So I apologize in advance. I don't want to make it feel very bookish, but then this is very important in the subsequent slide. So if you grasp these basics properly, I guess you'll have like a very good actionable takeaway from this 2 hours. Okay? So I request a lot of attention initially in the initial slides. It's not like you don't have to listen at the later slides, but it becomes easier as you go through the webinar. So I can assure you of that. I'll try not to be too technical or too boring. I know it's a Saturday evening, so I'll try to keep it light. So let's take supervised learning, for example. Okay. So as the name says, so we feed the algorithm with a series of inputs as well as the corresponding outputs. So it's very direct. Okay, one-on-one relation, we do that. And then sort of the algorithm then applies the same set of rules for whatever problems you give in the future. Like for example, bank fraud or loan risks, right? So you sort of tell what are all, you sort of quantify and then understand the algorithm, what are all the different type of risks in a loan. So it sort of learns all those risks, and then in the future when you give a scenario, it sort of maps from one of the things that it already learned and then gives you a solution. Similarly, predicting real estate prices, right? So you sort of give all the factors that affect the real estate prices, and then when you type in a question or something, it sort of comes up with an answer based on the existing set of rules. Okay, and there are a lot of common algorithms, but I purposely kept the font size lower because it's slightly technical and complicated. So let's not focus much on it. When it comes to unsupervised learning, you can see, as the name says, the system learns by itself by exploring the data on its own to find some sort of structure or pattern. Basically, it tries to go through the data and find some patterns. Okay. So, and then what? So it sort of accumulates the experience, and bases the experience of solving one problem, it goes and solves another related problem. Like for example, you see, right? Consumers with similar purchasing behaviors to deliver personalized marketing. Okay, or group inventory according to sales, or determine associations in customer data, right? You like when you look at Amazon or something, right? So when you say that people bought this, they are suggesting, okay, you might also like this, right? So these sort of models are basically unsupervised learning. And then finally, you have the reinforced learning. This is the final stage. Basically, what you do is you reward or punish the algorithm. Okay, there is a trial and error process in which all the actions are either rewarded or punished. Okay, the word virtually is very important. So it's like you sort of give it some points or something, and then it forms a memory of each experience and uses this learning for subsequent experiences. Right? For example, teaching cars to park themselves. That's a very good example, or even autonomous training and training robots. And similarly, right, so if you give the feedback to Google Maps, right, after you go to a destination, and then you say that at the end of the trip you give your feedback, so that becomes sort of a reward or punishment to the model. It learns itself. Okay, so next time when I go from location A to location B, probably I should not suggest this route because X percentage of people have given a bad feedback for this particular route, something like that. So it sort of rewards or punishes and then has a memory of its own and then uses that learning for subsequent experience. Right? So these are some practical use cases like autonomous driving, robots, etc., where the reinforcement learning is actually happening. And now let's look at big companies which are actually using reinforcement learning to solve problems. Right? Okay, so we know Netflix, right? Or let's take the example of Spotify. Spotify is, as I hope many of you have used Spotify already. Okay, one of the USPs of Spotify is that it has a very good recommendation engine. As in, when you sort of listen to a certain genre or a certain artist songs, the recommendation that it gives after those songs is really good, and it makes you stay more on the platform or the product. Right? So that is sort of the USP for Spotify. And this is being done by reinforcement learning, right? So the sector's entertainment. So basically, what are the inputs? Your previous songs that you played or liked or displayed, or for example, if there is a song that comes in your playlist, and every time that song comes, you sort of skip that song. Right? So that becomes sort of a reward or punish. That becomes a punishment to the model. So it sort of remembers that okay, I should not recommend this song when the user asks me to play songs next, right? So the action actually is that it sort of it knows which songs to put in your playlist, and obviously the company is going to benefit because the user listening time will get maximized, right? More the time people spend on the product, it's obviously doing a world of good to the company. So so it's always good to start with an objective. So Netflix, right? So this is a technical problem. So their objective was to minimize device failure. Okay, and how they are applying the reinforcement learning, they are doing some test schedules for business partner devices. So they sort of take the inputs as this, like historical test and device performance information, and then they say, okay, so basis this historical data, what kind of test that I should do next, so that I can minimize my device failure. Okay, and this is on the internal side. Similarly, you can see an interesting use case of data center cooling by Google, right? So basically, what they so if you have seen some TV series like Silicon Valley and stuff like that, you can see that data centers are basically huge rooms where all the servers are kept. So it's basically on the basement or below the ground level, right? So they get the temperature and air pressure in the data center area as inputs, and then basis that data, they sort of decide, okay, which fan to turn on, maybe should we add water to the air cooling unit, and things like that. So basically the objective is to control temperature as well as optimize the energy usage, right? So these are some practical use cases where reinforcement learning is being used. Okay, I'll proceed. So these are some leading machine learning startups worldwide in 2023 by the funding raised. Okay, so the objective of me putting this is to convey that a lot of important thing is happening, and usually if there is funding, people overall the tech sphere people think that okay, something interesting is going to come out from this activity. It may not be necessarily the case all the time, but still, if a lot of activity is happening, then I think there should be something something that there is no smoke, okay, as they say. So So let's look at some companies. I guess OpenAI, most of you might be knowing. OpenAI is the founding company of ChatGPT, and it's been in the news recently for wrong reasons, as you might know. But that's outside the scope of this webinar. But a lot of companies, right? So these companies, some of these companies like OpenAI, ScaleAI, these companies actually build models and build products based on machine learning operations. And some of these companies actually build the tools, or some companies do the ecosystem. Like for example, Hugging Face is sort of the GitHub for machine learning operations. GitHub is basically a place where you can do version control of software. Right? So some companies are making tools so that developers can develop software based on machine learning. So it's basically either machine learning products or products or tools that facilitate the machine learning ecosystem. So all these companies are getting funded really well into 2023. So it's sort of giving a indication that this this trend is here to stay right now, at least for some time. Now let's try to quantify this global artificial intelligence market, right? So before getting into any industry, you should try to understand the industry size and see that, okay, do we have enough potential, or is there enough potential for the industry as a whole to grow in it, right? So it's a very logical thing to do. So if you look at 2022, the market size was around 142 billion. And in 2023, it is approximately reaching around 207 billion US dollars. So the guess that they are saying is, this is from Statista. So what they are projecting is by 2028, the global AI market will cross around 1 trillion US dollar. So just to give some context, I think the font size is very less, but you can see on the right side 1 trillion. See the top 10 companies. India right now, recently we saw in the news, right? India crossed 4 trillion. 4 trillion US dollar, and then this number is slightly updated. Here it says 3.73, but recently it crossed 4 trillion. But you can see that AI in itself, the global AI market in itself, will sort of become, if you put it in terms of a country, it will be somewhere in the top 15. So that is the market opportunity that we are looking at when it comes to the global AI market, right? So let's. So right now it might look very. It might look sometimes generic, but we'll also break down this number and see, okay, the specific industries where this impact will happen and stuff like that in the coming slides. We'll also see some of the capabilities and use cases, right? So these graphs are also very, very interesting and very impactful for people, for fresh engineers like you, who are sort of like right now, you might be having a very broad opinion of things. So it's good to know all these different fields, like what's happening here, so that you can very judiciously choose where you have to put your energy and time into it. So for example, robotic process automation. I'll get into this topic in the subsequent slide. Like robotic process automation is one area where there is a lot of adoption. In 2022, actually, a lot of businesses have actually used this component of AI in their products as well as services. Okay, then comes computer vision and natural language text understanding. I have some practical use case of this, basically what we do in Samsung. So I'll explain this in detail there. And these are other topics, right? Like deep learning, knowledge graphs, recommender systems, digital twins, etc. So these are some areas where basically companies are applying the horsepower of artificial intelligence. And when you look at the leading use cases, right, since this is an industry survey data, unfortunately, this 60% I was not able to get the details of. So 60.7% is others. But let's look at these numbers, right? That might also give us some insight. It's not bad. So 12.2% of the industry people, what they are doing is they are using artificial intelligence to automate their customer service agent process. And 8.4% they are doing their sales process recommendation and automation. It's not just physical sales, but also the recommendation engines of Amazon that you see, the example that we spoke earlier and stuff like that. 6.8% are doing IT optimization It could be their internal portals, or it could also be their customer facing portals and stuff like that. And subsequently they use AI for fraud analysis and investigation, right? So yes, now robotic process automation, right? Very simple. So basically, if you sort of do, this robotic process automation starts with a very simple example, right? So if you do a repetitive set of tasks, let's say in Excel sheet, right? So you bold a cell, and then you increase the font size, and then you do something else. Okay, you add one more cell and then change the background color of that particular cell. Okay, you do the same thing again and again for 10 times. So what you do for this, instead of doing this manually, so you sort of write an Excel macro for this. So that that becomes a very basic example of a desktop process automation. So robotic process automation is nothing. It's almost the same. So we'll try to explain and increase the complexity of it in multiple steps. Right. So in x-axis you can see the degree of automation, and then on the y-axis obviously it's the complexity or impact. Obviously, more the complexity, higher would be the impact. It's not necessarily all the time true, but in industrial applications, as the complexity increases, the systems also have to be high impact. So let's start with the simple process, right? Simple desktop process automation. So it is characterized by very simple rules. I gave an example. It could be non-recurring tasks, so you can just write an Excel macro. So next time you can just run, and you can get done with automation. So next step is the robotic process automation, right? So here the rules are complex, and then you might have to do it repetitively, and it might also be recurring. So an example for this is automated invoice processing. So there are multiple terms in an invoice, right? When the product gets delivered, what are the payment terms, everything. So there are rules involved for each of the parameters in the invoice. So in those cases, you use the this step where the degree of automation is still not accurate. The next step is cognitive robotic process automation. So where you sort of go next step and then do advanced recognition. It could be through voice, image, everything. So so this is sort of a multidisciplinary, like interdepartmental stuff. And an example that is given here is a virtual assistant. Like basically, we've gone through Bixby in Samsung, or other virtual assistants from other companies like Google and Apple. So they sort of do multiple things, right? They understand, they sort of connect what's happening in different places, and then make a common picture out of it. And finally, the intelligent robotic process automation. Here, it's autonomously deciding on the process improvement. So it knows what to do based on previous learnings. It tries to do how to improve the process autonomously. And an example is an intelligent system that individually executes and improves critical processes. So these are the different stages of robotic process automation. So in the earlier slide, we saw that, okay, 39% of the businesses, they have adopted, right? Businesses adopted 39% times they have adopted robotic process automation. So that adoption could be any of these stages, depending on their complexity of their systems and stuff. They can go for, they've gone for one of these different stages. And we can also see the key players in robotic process automation. So basically, this is again a very good way to put or categorize companies in an industry. Like for example, if you're, so this is from Gartner, and this sort of methodology is called the magic quadrant. So what you do is, on the x-axis you have the visionaries, so you have the completeness of vision. So towards the end of x-axis you have the companies that are visionaries, and then towards on the left you have niche players, players who do only certain stuff. Okay. On the y-axis you have the ability to execute. So obviously, which is the best one? So there is nothing called best or something. It depends on the company and the company's positioning and company's problem statement that they are trying to solve. But if you see that the leaders are someone who are who have very good vision, as well as who have the ability to execute. And some people are very good in execution, but they might not have a strong vision. So it depends on the company and their own prerogative. So you can see that these are some companies in the robotic process automation sphere that have been put in these quadrants. It's called the Gartner's Magic Quadrant. Similarly, if you are trying to analyze a new industry or something, this sort of a framework is very useful for you. So it is applicable for any industry. Let's say for example, you take the OTT industry, right? There are multiple players like Netflix is there, Amazon Prime is there. Then our homegrown, a lot of homegrown OTT players are there like Altology and Sunnext and things like that, right? So you can put the same graph as a thought experiment in some time. So you can sort of put the same graph and then put these companies based on whatever you know and your perception, right? This is all a perception based. So whatever based on your perception, you can sort of put these companies in these quadrants and then understand, okay, so that will give you, okay, so this is the reason why this company X is the market leader, or this is the reason why this company is able to get a lot of market share very quickly because they are very good at executing and stuff like that. So that's why I sort of put this quadrant. It gives a very good thought template for you folks to continue. Now, the next topic is the artificial neural networks, right? So, neural network.
Ranga,
Sure.
Ranga, sorry to pause you. There are a few questions here. We'll just take them on, and before we move on, I guess we're moving to the next section. Hope you know, guys, you're getting right. As for what I understand, it's more of a market data and other things. There's some questions have come. One is like the question from Siddhi Hemant Bafna. The question is, machine learning is necessary to learn artificial intelligence, or only basic knowledge of ML is required?
Okay. See, it's a good question, but as we saw earlier, right, machine learning is a subset of AI. Okay. So inside machine learning, there are multiple layers. So I will talk about it in subsequent steps. So right now, machine learning looks like a very broader topic. When we get into the specifics, I'll give a very good answer to this.
Okay, cool. So I think there are a couple of questions here. One is like generally on the webinar, is it related to embedded or web development, or is focused on the AI? The answer is general, because we're not going to talk AI applied to web development or AI applied to, as I said, it's more of a opportunities and trends, and then career opportunity. Right? This is a question from Mohammed Irshan. Then there's a question from Mohammed Sahil. Is it going to be use case of AI models on embedded machines, or AI as a software application itself? Right? See, again, to answer your question, because since it's embedded, I'll take this up, right? Because the presentation is going to be generic, right? We're going to talk the broader sense of opportunities in AI, because as I said, AI can be applied in any domain, including embedded. Okay? Of course, embedded and AI combined together, there are many interesting use cases emerging. For example, in the areas like computer vision and right, where a lot of image processing and the embedded things are coming together. That's not going to be the focus today. As you already saw, what Ranga has presented, more of the market data, it's very much broad, because the idea is so far to build a big picture, and slowly it will emerge into various jobs and what are the job roles are, and what technologies and the skills that you're going to build on. Right? Hope that's clear. Irshan, Sahil, and Siddhi, is that has an answer to your question? Hope they will get the response. Apart from this, guys in the webinar, are you able to connect so far? Whatever the data is presented, Ranga, he just mainly talked about the market data, where the companies are, just to get a big picture, just to get you guys warmed up with what he's trying to present. Can I get some quick responses? Are you able to connect with the data that he shared, just to also ensure that we are on the same page? Typically we do that. Yeah, I'm getting some response. Siddhi says yes sir, thank you. Some more responses, folks. Yeah, and Deepa is telling yes. Can I get some more responses? Yeah, I'm telling Shravya is telling yes sir. Hope you're able to connect, guys, whatever he's been doing. But hang on, right? It's just scratch at the surface, given the market level. Yeah, Nibin is telling yes, again, getting the general idea. That's the whole idea, right? So far, it's spoken about the market. Now slowly get into the tech aspect of it, stack aspect of it, job aspect of it. Ultimately, job is what we're all here for. So you'll definitely touch upon. I'm getting more response, Ranga. Manjunath, Deepthi, Ketan, Sriraj, Deepak Kumar, right? They're able to connect. So thank you very much, guys. Please feel free to type more questions, right? I'll go off. Ranga, please continue.
Sure. Thank you so much. Yeah. So anytime you can just type in your questions and let's make it more interactive. All in for it. So we'll continue with our topic, right? So earlier we spoke about machine learning. Now let's try to define artificial neural network in a very simple way. Okay. So basically, these networks are built to mimic a human brain's working. Okay. So we have neurons in our mind, in our brain. Similarly, what people are doing is they are trying to organize all these artificial neurons in layers so that you can process information. So that's what is artificial neural networks. Okay. Now, so I did not go further details into artificial neural networks because it might be very technical. And at this point, I just, as Jayakumar also mentioned, right? I just wanted this to be a very broader idea so that you get to know what all is there in the system. And then you get to pick and choose where you can go further deeper. So at this stage, I guess that would make a lot of sense to you folks. So now let's answer this important question, right? Is it all hype? So here again, let's look at this hype cycle. Okay. This I like this graph because it is applicable also to your personal life as well. I'll first explain how you can look at this graph from a tech perspective. Okay. Let's say a new technology comes into the market, right? Okay, if any new technology, let's look at the x-axis and y-axis. The x-axis obviously is the independent variable, which is time, and then y-axis is the visibility that it gets in the media, in public, everywhere. Okay? It's just the visibility. It's very simple. It's a visibility versus time graph. Okay, so the concept is like this. Again, this is from Gartner. It's called Gartner hype cycle. So basically, what happens is when a new technology comes, okay, a lot of early adopters use it. Early adopters, when I say a lot, don't quantify them to be a huge number. Early adopters are people who are always enthusiastic about new tech. They keep looking for what's new and stuff like that, and then they make some noise about it. Okay, so when a new tech comes, there's a sudden increase in visibility. Okay, some people start talking about it, then one main journalist picks it up, and then someone like someone prominent in the industry talks about it and says that it has huge application in the industry and stuff like that. So sort of the visibility keeps increasing. Okay, at one point, which is called the peak of inflated expectations, so it sort of touches the peak. Okay, any technology for that matter sort of touches the peak. Okay, and then what happens is reality sort of kicks it into the tech. Okay, by people I mean the freelancers, hobbies, as well as the companies full time. They sort of apply this technology and see whether they can make some good applications out of it. Okay, that is when reality kicks in. So it sort of goes into a trough of disillusionment. So even in life, it's not, if it's very smooth, then there is no fun in it, right? There is a peak and then there is a trough, and then you go up, go down, stuff like that. So there is a trough of disillusionment, meaning so people start applying this new tech here, but then they are not able to succeed. The output that is coming from the application is not as good as they expected. So there is a disillusionment. Then what happens is slowly the ecosystem evolves. The ecosystem around the tech evolves. Engineers start applying their minds in slightly more creative ways, and then they sort of get into this slope of enlightenment. That's when they have their moment of eureka. They say, okay, I should apply this technology in a slightly different way. Maybe I was looking at the wrong use case for this tech. I should pivot and then do it in some other way. So these sort of innovative and creative brainstorming happens. Maybe some technological advancements also happen. So all these led into the scope of enlightenment. And finally, it sort of comes into the plateau of productivity, right? So it sort of gets into this place and then says, okay, now the tech is sort of stable. It's got into this plateau of productivity where people sort of know its strengths, know its limitations. So they sort of keep using it again and again, right? So they know, and then with this, the cycle keeps going. So this is the overall idea of this. So let's try to look at AI from this perspective and try to plot. Okay. So one simple thought experiment for you folks is now since you have this graph, you try to plot where AI is right now in this hype cycle. Right? That would be an interesting thought experiment, and we'll also get an answer to this question by this section when this session ends. Okay. So now again, let's look at numbers, right? So just to repeat, this section is to understand whether AI is hype or not. Okay. If we get a good answer to this, then it makes sense to continue further. Right? So let's sort of put the nail on the head for this question. So let's look at again some surveys, right? Primary AI capability adoption rate in business. Okay. So we sort of saw this already earlier, that 39% of the industries are actually using AI in robotic process automation. They are using in the text understanding, deep learning, etc. We saw this earlier. So, and this is again an interesting number, right? So what is the change in AI investments worldwide? Okay. So people can say a lot of things. Okay. They say that, okay, the cryptocurrencies are the next big thing in the world, or like any topic X is the next big thing in the world, topic Y is going to be the next big disruption and stuff like that. Okay, but do people really invest in topic X or Y is the big question, right? So you can see that actually 76% of the companies, these are all companies, so 76% of the companies are, they are saying that they've increased their investments in AI, and and it's a significant investment that they are doing. And around 20% are staying mostly the same. These are the indecisive companies, but 76% is a huge number that we cannot ignore, right? So 76% of the companies are. So please note that there is a statistically significant sample size, and in that 76% are saying that, okay, we are increasing our investment in AI. And similarly, again, you can sort of look at the funding that these kind of conversational AI startups are getting, right? So even though this chatbot or conversational AI is one subtopic inside AI, but still you can see that look at the amount of funding that these companies are getting. Okay, these companies, some of these companies are actually very close competitors, but still they are getting a lot of funding in terms of billion US. And you can also see, so supply chain transformation is one specific example, right? So where, okay, there are multiple industries where the AI is getting applied. So in supply chain transformation, the business benefits for applying AI is huge, right? So 95% of the industry people are saying that AI is actually increasing efficiency in resolving persistent challenges. So these numbers are like definitely not something that we can neglect. Okay, and 44% are saying that AI helps them in better asset utilization, and 40% is saying that, okay, we are able to make more accurate demand forecasts. So I think you're sort of getting an answer to the question that we posed earlier, that if AI is actually hype or not, right? These numbers sort of point us towards this direction. So as engineers, we always have to stick to data, and the data sort of say that, okay, I think it's not hype, maybe something is there in the package. I guess you are forming that idea, and I want you to think along those lines. And this might be slightly off topic, but still people are saying that, see, AI data scientists and machine learning, people are finding it very difficult. So probably I'll skip this graph now because it might confuse you, but let's keep this later. So now let's try to answer this question again. Okay, so again, earlier we saw a very plain graph, right? So this was the graph that we saw. Overall, it started with a tech trigger, and then it goes to peak of inflated expectations. Then there is a trough of disillusionment. The slope of enlightenment happens, and then there is a lack of productivity. So now let's try to plot where the technology that we know right now is there in this, right? So you can see that, okay, we are all aware of the generative AI, right? Thanks to ChatGPT. So thanks to the tremendous visibility and expectations that it has set and stuff like that. So it's sort of right now it's plotted here. Gen AI is plotted here in the peak of inflated expectations. So the upcoming times are going to be super exciting, whether it sort of stays here, and then how it goes towards the plateau of productivity. What are the use cases that sort of mold GenAI into it, right? So every day there are so many startups that are coming based on GenAI, but it's going to be exciting space. But right now you can see that GenAI is being plotted here, and this you can again look at this graph later peacefully when you get the material. So this graph is they have put all the emerging technologies here, right? Like for example, inside machine learning, it's something called a federated machine learning. So they're saying that okay, this technology is not yet reached to the peak of inflated expectations, but a lot of people are talking about it. So the expectations as well as the visibility is getting very high for this field. So something like that. So these are some good fields where you can also research or dive down further. That's the objective of putting this graph. So just to answer this question again, so as far as I know, I think artificial intelligence is not just hype. Due to the tremendous applications and the use cases that industry are saying, and then industry people are also talking about it, I think it's a tech that is here to stay. Probably the use cases and the way it is being applied might get molded based on the individual companies and the industry's requirements. But AI as a tech is here to stay. This is what my understanding as well as the data says. But I always I'm open to for the suggestions, and like we'll always be seeing, right, these kind of tech disruptions. Nobody can be very certain about it. So we always have to be very cautious when we make sweeping statements. So we'll try to stick to data, and the data says that okay, it's not hype. So this is the sort of a semi-conclusion that we have in this session. And now I hope we saw a lot of theory, right? Now let's look at some examples in what we are doing, we as a company, in this space. For example, so Samsung very recently launched its own GenAI model. GenAI is the generative AI. So it's called as Samsung Ghost. So right now there are 3 applications where we are looking at it. So one is Ghost language, right, where you can use this to understand human language and then craft natural responses out of it. That is one aspect. Other thing is Ghost code, right? So basically this is for to assist development engineers, in software development, for writing code descriptions or writing test cases, creating test cases and stuff like that. And the third component of Gauss is Gauss image. So it helps in allowing the creation and modification of images. So right now it is used internally. Slowly, step by step, it will also be applied in Samsung's products as well as applications, so that end users can also use this. But yeah, Samsung is doing a lot of research in GenAI actually. And coming to some specific examples, right? So I'll talk about this interesting use case. This is a very India specific feature. This is available in A51 and A17. Right, in India, you know, our phone is never private. So if you have your phone, especially if you're in a hostel or something, your friend sort of snatches your phone and goes into the gallery and pokes their nose into your gallery and comments at the pictures and stuff like that, right? Obviously, but you don't want that to happen, but you don't want to hurt your friend also. And this it does not just happen with your friends. Sometimes parents do that. So it's a cultural thing. So what we have done is there is a feature called Aussie Life, where if you just double click the quick switch, all your private pictures sort of get hidden into it, right? So we use the machine learning models to understand from pictures which could be private for you and which could be public, okay, and then classify those images into a private gallery. And then when someone suddenly snatches your phone, you quickly double click it without them knowing that okay, you're doing something, and then all these private moments remain private, and that interfering friend or parent or whoever guardian, so he cannot see your private moments. So this is a very cute feature that I thought I'll talk about, and the tech behind this is actually machine learning. And next is Bixby, right? I guess you would have heard about this word. So Bixby is the voice assistant for in the Samsung ecosystem. You can see that in Samsung phones, Samsung smartwatches, TVs, fridges, etc. So let's go through a very simple example. So you just say Bixby play Kesaria, okay, or any song for that matter, okay. So what happens is there's so much happening between this user command simple utterance play Kesaria and till the time the user enjoys the song. Okay? This happens in probably 2 seconds, but the tech that happens in these two seconds is very interesting. So let's go step by step. So when you say this utterance, play Kesaria, what happens is your speech first gets converted to text. Okay. So that is called automatic speech recognition, where it sort of recognizes what you're saying, the language and everything. So it's mere conversion of speech to text. There is no understanding or anything. The next step is to understand the text. Okay, make sense of the text. This is where natural language understanding, or we saw earlier, right? Text or natural language understanding, and then we make sense of the text. Okay, so here play is a verb. Okay, and then Kesaria is the name of the song and stuff like that. Or if you say some play Money Heist on Netflix and things like that, so we have to understand that okay, play is the action verb. Money Heist is actually the name of the content that's going to be played, and then on Netflix. So Netflix is the place where it's going to be played. So we have to make sense of the text, right? So that part is actually the natural language understanding. Okay, so once you understood what is what and inside the utterance, then what you actually perform the action, right? Okay, into the inside the OS, you will have to send these utterances to multiple places. Okay, let's say for example, the users have preferred Spotify as their music player. Okay, so Bixby has to send the content to Spotify so that and make it understand that it has to play this song. So this is where the action happens. Finally, there is the text to speech component where it sort of acknowledges, saying, okay, I have understood that I should play the song. I am now playing the song. And then finally the song is played. So there are, like, again, as I said, right, in big companies there are huge teams working on each of these tech components in the pipeline. But overall, if you say, right, even one of you had asked this question earlier. So okay, what is machine learning, or like is machine learning a part? So this machine learning is it's a subset of AI, and each of these is a separate use case of machine learning, right? So this is how it's actually applied in the industry. So once you get into the industry, you might get into one of these domains, gain more expertise, and then again zoom out and then come back. Okay, now I have this expertise, probably I can move here, or things like that. So it's up to your passion and motivation. So now let's look at one more use case. This is the smart suggestions widget, right? So here again, basically what it does is the smartphone sort of knows what is your usage pattern, which apps you use on a more regular basis, and then sort of populates those apps on these suggestion widgets. So it's not just about apps. It also sometimes suggests your actions. Like for example, if you say that daily in the evening around 6 to 6:30 p.m. you call your mom, it sort of recognizes that pattern that okay, in the evenings you call your mom. So it will also suggest that action here, saying okay, call mom. When you open your phone around that time, you can see that that action is getting recommended. So all these are very cute applications of the technology that we saw earlier. If you have any questions, like, please feel free to type in the chat. So these are some examples of how we use this tech in Samsung.
Yeah, Ranga, I could see some questions. I think we'll take them before you want. Since you're talking about use cases, I was expecting that. I think Nibin is asking the question, right? So recently, if you look at, I'm sure guys will agree to me, like whether it's Rashmika Madana or not Deepika, Sara Tendulkar or Modi coming and singing some local, my mother tongue is Tamil, so I watch a lot of Tamil memes and all, right? all of a sudden Modi is singing some Tamil song, right? So the question comes in the similar direction. Nibin is asking, very interesting, because that's something else. Even today morning I saw Minister Rajiv Chandrasekhar was making some statement about this. It's something like this: Elon Musk actually said that AI can become really dangerous, and the recent deepfake video scams are providing the point, I guess. So your views on this, sir? So what do you think going on this?
Okay, it's a very important question. So I also have this covered in the subsequent slides. But see, as a tech enthusiast, okay, I'm extremely excited about the tech aspect. Okay, but if you see as a user, it's very frightening. So because the implication that it can have on our lives, right? If you are the impacted person, I definitely know that, okay, it's going to be huge. So there needs to be a very fine line, okay, where the line should be very clear, where the person's privacy is being invaded, and then as long as the application or use case is harmless and it does good for it does greater good for the humanity, and it has a very good application and it increases the productivity and stuff, I'm totally okay with it. But when it crosses the line, it's a bit problematic. And right now the industry is also like defining like proper boundaries where this tech can grow and how it can get applied. It's a very important topic. It has a lot of legalities involved as well. But yeah, that's my opinion. That as a tech enthusiast, I'm very excited about it. But from a human perspective, it's very frightening.
Great. So probably as time evolves, right, more regulations and more, as that line, whatever he's talking about, might become a little bit more thicker, so that we don't get into we don't get into that issues, right? Okay.
Right.
Great.
The regulations have already started coming, like globally also.
Right.
I have one slide on it. I'll talk about it. But yeah, but it's a very good question. I totally appreciate it. It's a very mature question. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you, Nibin, for asking that question. There is one more question. This again, typically we get asked in most of the webinars. I think you can relate to that also. It's a question from Lakshmi Narasimha. AI can replace employees where it is applicable, right? IT sector, where if I think logically, right? So AI will AI replacing the employability. So what is your views on this, Ranga?
Okay, so it's again a case by case scenario question, right? So as engineers, we should always stick to data. We should not make sweeping or generalized statements saying that AI will replace jobs. That is for the media people to do. Let's sort of go into the individual scenarios where AI can actually add impact. We also saw those industries where AI will make a huge impact, right? So that is one part. The industry is one part. The most important part is you as a person and you as your skill set, right? That is where like things like WSA is doing a great job. So that is where the upskilling comes, right? So you have to find a niche for yourself. You have to build a moat for yourself and make sure you are upskilling so that whatever happens, your human intelligence, your natural way of thinking, nobody can replace it. That is 100% sure, right? So that responsibility solely lies on you, and the way you upskill, it all depends on where you upskill and stuff like that. Once you do that constantly, I guess it's very difficult to replace you as a person.
Sure, I think that fairly answers that question. And there is a couple of more questions here. There's a question from Mohammed Sahil. I think it's already asked. As a PM, is your use case to developers or architects to develop a new LLM AI model from the scratch, or do you modify a general LLM model for your use? Is the later case more expensive? Like, are you going to do it from the scratch, or you're going to develop from the beginning? It means reuse it.
First of all, I want to really congratulate this person. It's a very good question. Okay, it's actually a question that is being solved even by executives. Okay, executives of big companies. So I really appreciate this question. Okay, so basically, if you see, right, it's a trade-off. So it's between build versus buy. And as you rightly, as a person has rightly pointed out, building an LLM from scratch is a huge task. Like for example, ChatGPT has parameters in terms of trillions, and they say, right, for every one query, it's costing the company, if I'm not wrong, 35 cents or something like that. For every one query that we are randomly putting in our phones, it's costing the company so much. So definitely yes, but for bigger companies, this decision of whether building or buying, it is done based on the ecosystem where the product is applied. Like for example, Samsung. If you see, right, Samsung already has an ecosystem of apps and then partners and stuff like that. So they already have data. So Samsung probably can decide, okay, since we have all this data, can we sort of leverage it by building an LLM of our own? That is how they think, because they have the resources. But whereas startups whose primary problem statement would be something else, right? Their primary problem statement would be to solve their like get their product market fit and solve their problem. Okay, and then for them having a LLM would be a secondary thing. It would probably be a means to achieve their final goal, and it is not the final destination, right? So for companies like them and for smaller companies, probably using already well-established model makes a lot of sense, because they don't have to do the training again and stuff like that. So it's a very case-by-case, scenario-by-scenario-based way of doing it. But definitely, yes, we as product managers have a lot of say in this. So what we do is we sort of do the trade-offs, right? We quantify the trade-offs. If we build this in-house, what would be the costs that are incurred by us during the data costs and everything, and then what would be the benefits, like okay, the trainings and then the extra customization ability that in-house LLM brings and stuff like that. So yes, as product managers, we do that, and the decision is taken by executives. But yeah, this is the overall picture. It depends on case by case. But again, I want to really appreciate, because this is a super mature question to ask at this stage. So I'm very happy that you are thinking in the right direction.
Great, Sahil. I think it's also triggers me on an idea. I think I will next time onwards, I think we'll implement that. I thought about it somehow. It did not strike me today. Okay, probably I'll also pass on a word with my team. So apart from giving you winners who are the quiz winners, I think we'll also introduce from next webinar also guys who are asking the best question, right? We'll take a note. I think we should appreciate them by now, maybe send some goodies and things offline, right? Okay,
right. There are very good contenders for that right away. Very good contenders for that right away.
Because other thing which generally I see, Ranga, in our webinars, generally you may see, right? See, if I think close to around 100 plus are there in this webinar, right? If I call all these 100 plus and make them sit in a room, they won't ask any questions, right? You know, in Indian culture, you're not, so much this thing to ask questions. But in a webinar, they are very much kind of a sense of anonymity they enjoy. So they ask questions, and those questions actually, I'll tell you, they're actually mind blowing. We run so many webinars. Type of question they ask is quite mind blowing. It's great. Keep the questions coming. And there is one more question. What is the link of technology trigger with the AI? I think the question is not clear. Maybe Nabiullah, if you are like,
no, I sort of get the question. I guess I'll try to explain. Okay. So basically, I guess he's asking what does this technology trigger to do with artificial intelligence or something. I think where he's coming from, let me make an assumption on his behalf and explain. So you are right, technology trigger has nothing to do with AI. Okay, so this is a general graph which can be applied for any technology, not just AI for that matter. Okay, so let's take cryptocurrency for example, right? So even cryptocurrency, you can sort of from the moment it started making noise, you can sort of put it in different places of the graph based on your perception and see, okay, how is it going? So it's not just about that, right? So last year the fad in India was, and even now it's the quick commerce, right? A lot of these quick commerce apps are coming. So that is a new technology. So you can sort of, so that's why I said that it's just a thought template. It has nothing to do with AI. But in this session, what we did was we sort of fitted AI into this graph just to understand whether it is hyped up or not. So that was the intention. But again, it's not related to not just AI.
Okay, great. So there is another question from Akansh Tripathi. Akansh is asking, as a job seeker, I should learn how to make the models, or should I learn how I can use case these models in the basically build a use case? I think the same question asked by Sahil, right? From one point, I think you already answered. From the company's standpoint, the trade-offs and the cost benefit part of it, right? So they're asking from the career perspective. Should they build it from the scratch, or should they use to leverage in their work as a job seeker?
Great question. I have an answer for this also in the subsequent slides. I'll talk about it. Don't worry. I have specific job roles, headings, and descriptions as well. So I hope that sort of will answer your question.
Okay, great. Thanks, Ranga. Go, please proceed. I'll come back once more questions come. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So far we looked at some use cases and stuff like that. So now let's look at the layers, components, and tech stack. Okay. So as Sir rightly mentioned, right? So the climax is all about our career. So how we can apply all this and make our career much better. Okay, and get good jobs. So to get that, you need to know at least the layers and components, so that okay, these are the different places where I can apply my competence, and this is where like I can then further position myself. Okay, so that is why this section is super important. So let's understand this. So even if it's text heavy, right, don't worry, definitely we'll be sharing this content with you later, like with a cup of tea or coffee. You like very carefully read this, slowly read this, and then get a conceptual understanding of this layer. Okay, so there are basically 5 layers of the AI stack, as they call. The first one is data, then comes algorithms, infrastructure, platforms, and applications. So let's look at it in a very simple way. So data is basically the foundation of AI, right? So as we know, all these AI systems and models, they require a large amounts of data. Right? So instead of like to make decisions, okay, they have to take some decisions, and then they also have to learn from those decisions, right? So they need humongous amounts of data. So obviously, data is the foundation of the AI stack. So now, if you had done some sort of work in data, data is always very difficult, because sometimes it could be in some other format than what you want it to be. So there are multiple sub layers inside data, like you have to collect the data, and then you have to clean the data, right? You have a cleaning, as in you have to keep the format of the data in such a way that you can consume it for further steps, and then do the pre-processing, and then how you store the data and all those things. Okay, so the last question, right? So the person wanted to know, okay, in which specific field, or like how do I build my career in AI, right? So you can build your career in any of these things, right? It could be in data, so you can be a data scientist. I'll come up with the specifics in the subsequent slide, but right now I can say that okay, you can be a data pre-processor, or you can be a data analyst in this stack, or you can be someone who's working on the infrastructure layer of AI, or you can be someone who's working on the applications, right? So your friends and colleagues build all the things, they facilitate everything around you, and you sort of come up with the applications where this tech could be used. So you can fit into any of this. So that's why it's very important to understand this. So the second layer is about algorithms, right? So basically, this is about developing the mathematical models as well as the algorithms that allow these AI systems to extract patterns and insights from the data. So you have huge amounts of data. So you need some algorithms to make sense of this data and then also extract patterns, right? So here, all these things that we spoke about earlier, like machine learning, deep learning, statistical models, all those things come into picture. Okay. This is algorithms. The third step is the infrastructure layer. Obviously, you need the hardware and software components, right, to for all this to work seamlessly. So, like basically, hardware meaning you need the CPUs, GPUs, and all the specialized hardware where you can actually run your train your models, as well as the operating systems, the virtualization, containerization. Let's not get into the specifics of it. But it's more about the software that enables all these things to work seamlessly. That's the infrastructure. And then fourth one is the platform layer, which is also very important, right? So it's like platform layer provides the tools and frameworks necessary for developing, deploying, and managing all these AI applications. So here is where the programming languages, like I know most of you would be familiar with, you would have heard about Python and other frameworks like TensorFlow, PyTorch, etc. So these programming languages sort of like give you the syntax, and draw the boundaries using which you can sort of build your applications, which is the fifth layer. Like for example, the applications layer encompasses the specific use cases and applications that leverage AI technologies. Okay, so this layer includes chatbots, recommendation systems. Some examples are given here, AI-powered systems and things like that. But it's not just limited to these applications. So you can see that all of these are positioned equally. So nothing is inferior or superior like that. So it's like all these layers work seamlessly to give you a very good product at the end. So this is how these are some basic 5 layers of the AI stack. Now let's look into a much deeper version of the same. So the difference between this slide and the previous slide is this is more from a conceptual understanding, right? It's like a starter, and this is like the main course. So just to warm you up, and then now we'll get into the main course. So basically, you have the data layer, like we said earlier. So it talks about the collection, storage, management of database, and everything that we use for training and testing these models. Okay. Then comes the machine learning layer. So this talks about the algorithms, models, data. So it's all the same so far. And as we spoke earlier, deep learning is one subset of machine learning, right? So here it might also include artificial neural networks and stuff like that. Then comes the natural language processing layer. So okay, as humans, we give our inputs. The algorithm has to understand, okay, what the person is saying, and then convert it into an information that the computer can understand. And then there is the computer vision layer, right? So this layer includes the use of algorithms to analyze and interpret visual information from images and videos. Okay. Then the sixth one is the robotics layer, ensures that the right physical mechanism of AI technologies. It basically sort of controls and automates the process. Okay. So this robotics, don't get worried about the name here. So basically what it does is sort of streamlines and automates all these processes that are happening seamlessly in the backend. And finally, all this is not possible without the AI infrastructure layer, right? So this, as we spoke earlier, we have the hardware, software, and cloud services that require building, training, and deploying AI models and regular applications. So, so the objective of putting these 2 slides here is to like give you an exposure that okay, these are the different things where actually people work, and these are places that you can actually try to enter and make a dent for yourself. Now, in terms of the stack, we as Indian engineers, we are always like with my limited experience overseas, Indian engineers have a very good what to say, very good reputation when it comes to software, right? We also know that okay, that's the reason why we are sort of the powerhouse. We need to be humble about it. I totally agree, but it's also a very strong point for us that we are sort of good with the technology and evolution. So let's keeping that in mind, let's look at the 4 aspects of the AI stack. So there is the machine learning frameworks. Like basically, these frameworks are nothing but the tools and APIs to build, optimize, and validate your machine learning models. Like for example, this is where these popular names come into picture, like TensorFlow, PyTorch, Keras, etc. Then obviously, in addition to the frameworks, you'll be needing the programming languages, right? So here again, it's a question of trade-off. So if you are an independent freelancer or a hobbyist who does things on the weekend, so your priority will be totally different, right? You will try to see okay, which is a free version and which suits my use case and stuff like that. Or whereas if it's an enterprise, for them it's going to be complicated. They will need version control systems, and they will need totally a different set of requirements. They will look at model efficiency and stuff like that. So dependent on the user and model efficiency, the programming language gets chosen for that particular project. So some examples here are given like Python, Julia, etc. Again, these are like very use case specific, company specific, application specific, basis that the languages are chosen. And the third aspect in the tech is the cloud resources, right? So cloud resources are basically they are the fuel to run all this. So we'll be this step, it depends on the resources and the scalability. Obviously, like I said before, you are building a product that is being used by millions of users, right? You are an enterprise and you are building a product that is used by millions. So for you, the scalability is super important. So you try to pick and choose the cloud resources. There are some names mentioned here like AWS, GCP, etc. So basis your specific application and use case, you sort of pick and choose the resources. And finally, you will have to have proper tech that will help you in manipulating the data, right? So you will have to do the data analysis, and then so you might be having tremendous amounts of data, right? Just take the case of Amazon, for example. So many of us are ordering on Amazon. So just imagine how much data the company would be having in terms of what people are buying, like what time they are placing the order, like when are they breaking out in the overall user journey and stuff like that. They will be having so much data, right? So they will have to process that efficiently. So having all the data is one thing, but getting actionable insights out of it so that you can convert that into a value for the business and increase the revenue for the company is super important, and that's why people do all this, right? So so that is sort of a super important part. So here again coming back to the last question that the person asked, super thank you very much for asking the question. So it's like you can see, right, these are different places where you sort of you can develop your expertise and then sort of position yourself to the recruiters. So now I'll quickly touch upon the emerging trends because any which ways we'll be sharing the material. So I guess you can also go through it later because section 6 is the climax, as we all keep saying. So I'll focus more time on it. So basically, these are some trends in AI and machine learning. Some of it you are already aware, like Gen AI, and then the gap between AI and IoT is like reducing. There's a lot of overlap happening between AI and Internet of Things. So in simple words, IoT is like the nervous system, and AI is sort of the brain for it, the decision-making brain. And then there are new systems like augmented intelligence, where the human intelligence is being mixed with AI. As in the AI will generate an output which is sort of given to humans for calibration, and then again the output will be processed and stuff like that. And these are other places where a lot of focus is happening, like transparency. When you speak about AI, right, people think that it's going to be a black box. But now there are a lot of rules and regulations coming, and people are saying that okay, we should know what's happening inside. So that is also one field. And then you have composite AI, where it's more a fancy word. Basically, what this means is a lot of various tech like machine learning, deep learning, NLP, computer vision, knowledge graphs, all this combined together, and then get applied for a specific use case. And then you have these fancy words like algorithmic decision making. Basically, it's decision making. And then low or no code tools, cognitive analytics, etc., etc. So these are some emerging trends. I think it keeps changing, so let's not worry much about it. Our idea as an engineer is to know the basics and then see, okay, what are all the different areas that are available and like where I can develop my skills and expertise. So now, again, a super question that one of you asked, right? Like, where is the boundary that we are going to draw, right? Elon Musk is saying that it's very harmful and stuff like that. So yes, this question is being seriously taken. At least by the government has started taking notice. So if you see that recently, October 31st, the White House has issued an executive order, okay, on safe, secure, and trustworthy artificial intelligence. So okay, why did I put this? Because okay, so everyone in the ecosystem have started taking notice that okay, this is a huge force that we cannot ignore, and hence we need to have some standards so that there is a clear boundary as to what this technology can do and what it cannot do, so that the safety and security of the citizens are being maintained and stuff like that. So obviously these kind of techs, technological advancements, frameworks, legal, everything. So it first gets propagated in the US, and then sort of people sort of notice what's happening, and then all these things also it sort of trickles down like all over the industry. So it's a good thing that they have noticed this, and then they have started working on the legal and the framework where AI can be applied and stuff like that. So again, thanks to that question. So I guess this will sort of give a direction to how you might think. Now let's come to the climax: the skills and opportunities in AI. Okay. Okay. How do you position yourself, right? This is something I want you to pay a lot of attention to. Okay, so you are sort of pretty fresh in your career, and that is a very good advantage if you ask me. So it's up to you to build your career story or your resume. So basically, what you have to do is there are three aspects, right? There is software engineering, obviously, and then there is the data science part, and then business requirements, right? Data science and software engineering is more of the technical side, right? Like if you're a computer science engineer, or you can be any engineer, but getting to know the basics of software, what software means, how people think and stuff like that. That is obviously like one important pillar in this. And then you also have the data science. But what's most important is if you join a startup or a very small company, right? So for them, every single investment is super important. So they'll be thinking that, okay, if I'm hiring this particular person, what value I'm gonna get from this person, okay? And you just flip the switch, okay? Now you are a candidate, right? So from beginning of your career, you have to think this way, okay? How do I add value to this company? Or how do I add immediate, like how can I make immediate impact to this business that I'm joining? It could be a small company, it could be a big company, right? But if you start thinking from a business owner perspective, even though you're an employee, right, it's going to do huge wonders to your career. And so that's why we sort of put this Venn diagram and saying that if you can position yourself at the intersection of this, right? I know it's very easy to put this in a graph, but then again, you just once you get this material, just take some time to think through. Okay? So if you can position yourself as someone who knows bits and pieces of software engineering, data science, because obviously you are a fresh engineer. People also know, the industry also knows that you cannot be an expert in all this, right? But at least if you can position yourself as someone who has some exposure and expertise in each of these three, and as someone who has the learning aptitude and the attitude, right, to know that, okay, if given something along these territories, I'd be happy to learn and then position myself accordingly, then I think you'll be having a great career ahead. And it's not like I'm like a astrologer or foreteller or something. People have done this for ages, right? So they try to see what problem they are solving, and they try to see the impact that the problem they are solving is. Okay, that is basically business requirement. And so for solving that problem, they apply their expertise and as well as other tools, right, like data science and stuff like that. So if you can position yourself here, it's going to be super useful for your career. And now let's look at some specific career paths inside AI, right? So again, so these are multiple job titles inside AI, like for example, big data analyst. Okay, the designation might differ from company to company. So each company some companies might call it as a data scientist or a big data analyst, junior data analyst, senior data analyst. All those things doesn't matter. Let's just understand the broader career path. Like for example, a big data analyst, what he or she does is find meaningful patterns in data. They would have huge amounts of data, so they will just try to find out patterns and then make predictions about the future, right? And then you have the UX designer or a developer. This is also like it's a super important role, especially like if you ask me as a product manager, right? I think this is very important for products. So these are the guys who work with the products, like to help customers. Like actually, they make customers understand why their product exists, and then make the customer's life journey very easy. Okay, if they are using some product, the product should actually help them. It should not be the other way around, right? So that's how they sort of make the product very user friendly. So this could be one interesting career path. And there are some technical career paths, right? Like natural language processing engineer. So basically, you explore the connection between, okay, so the humans speak in a certain terminology or something. How do you make the computer understand what the humans speak? Okay, these two sentences are not making justice to the topic. It's a super complicated topic. There are a lot of PhDs who are devoting their entire life to it. But just to give an exposure, this is again a very, very interesting field. Some two common applications that we know of are chatbots and virtual assistants that we are seeing on a daily basis. But it's again a huge area where you can dive deeper. Then obviously researcher is a very broad term, but in this context, researcher means you're a computer science researcher and you can work on AI to advance the technology. Could be academic as well. Then there is software engineer inside AI, and then there is a AI engineer. So again, there was a question, right? I wanted to build models from scratch. So yeah, obviously, see exactly the question, the words used by the person in the question are here. So basically, you can build AI models from scratch and help product managers and stakeholders understand results. So from executives, okay, from top down, they say that okay, we have decided we need an in-house LLM inside Samsung, inside your company or something like that. If the executives come and decide. So you as an AI engineer can build models from scratch, and you can sort of convince product managers and stakeholders understand, okay, what is the utility you get out of these models. So this is an again a career path, and you have other career paths, right? Like data mining and analysis, and then machine learning engineers, where you build software applications based on machine learning models. So it could be anything. It could be the final product, right? Final machine learning based product, or it could be tools that help facilitate or that help developers to build machine learning software. So it could be anything. Then there is the famous data scientist, which is gathering a lot of attention these days. A lot of people are getting into data science and data analysis. So again here these are like almost similar career paths, like collect, analyze and interpret data sets. And then you have business intelligence development, where it's again sort of similar to data scientist, but the emphasis on the business and market trends is very high. So you just you do not just stop at collecting, analyzing and interpreting data sets, but you also try to connect the dots between the data and the business as well as market trends. So that is what this does. Again, you have big data engineer, where you develop systems that allow businesses to communicate and collect data. Finally, you have these other titles, right? Robotics engineer and computer vision engineer. So obviously, once you get this content, you can go through it. But if you ask me as a friend, and if you are a fresh engineer, right, what I would suggest is not to get too worried about the titles or the designations and stuff like that. So if you think that overall the company is doing a lot of exciting work, and the applications or use cases of company, right, the use cases are always the best judge for a company, right? So a lot of people are actually talking very nice things about the product, nice things about the applications and stuff like that. Then obviously it's a very good company. The company is doing well. So so you can try to get into those companies, and then in any capacity that you can, and not worry too much about the designations or titles, at least at the initial stage, so that your focus is more on learning and then building a moat around your profile, right? So as you know, like we have so many engineers, and even companies differentiate their products and services. So the same applies to us engineers as well, right? So again, this was a very good question, right? Will we get replaced when AI comes, right? So it's all depends on us. If we upskill ourselves, keep upskilling ourselves, right? And then try to build a moat around us, build a moat around our skill set, and say that okay, I'm really good at XYZ, and there's no one who can do or give a similar quality of work output in these particular fields. So if you can confidently build that in your initial stages of career, then I've seen people do wonders, like if they have such clarity at the initial stage of the career. So I guess that would sort of help you. And obviously, to get started, if you're looking at entry level roles, the companies will have some expectations, right? We also have to respect that. Like we'll have to prepare ourselves. So they'll be expecting some graduate degrees in computer science, mathematics, or sometimes statistics, or data science specific degrees as well. And you'll have to be familiar with Python because it's the most important thing, and then there is SQL and stuff like that. More than these familiarity, so what I would say is, if you are a fresher trying to get into this field, right, don't focus much on the language or the framework. Instead, have a broader understanding and see how you can do. That's where the third point is very important, right? So you can think about the knowledge of data analysis, how you look at data, how you can process this data, and how you can visualize this data, right? So nothing is stopping you from doing this on a daily basis. You read newspapers, and you read a lot of data that is being thrown at you randomly, right? So every time you see some data, try to train yourself. Okay, what is this data actually trying to convey? Can I make some different insights out of it and stuff like that? Once you get into that mindset on a daily basis, it's going to be super helpful to you always, and your life also is going to be super interesting, because sometimes it'll be very funny, because people will try to twist data so that it suits their rhetoric. Okay, so you can also figure out all those things that people do to misguide you sometimes. And then as an entry level role, they might also expect you to have a basic understanding of the cloud technologies, because nowadays a lot of things are happening on the cloud, and then obviously the business acumen about industry, market, competition, etc. Okay, I put this point at the end because, okay, as a fresher, I totally understand you might not know much about industry or market or competition, but this is definitely something that that will give you an edge. Okay, because as engineers, the first 4 points almost everyone would be having, right? And if you also focus on this business acumen about the industry, market, and competition, that's definitely gonna give you an edge. It's like putting some tadka on an already delicious dish, right? So they just put that tadka to make it even more delicious, make it more presentable, so that finally when you see the product, it looks really good. It not just looks good, it also enhances the taste of the dish that you are cooking. So this part is something like that. And as an MBA student, you might think, okay, I'm more biased towards market study, industry, competition, stuff like that. But definitely, it's not the case. I can assure you. From a fresher or at an entry level itself, if you have this understanding about the industry, market, competition, etc., the way you think will be super interesting, and it's again super beneficial to you only. So that's the reason why I'm trying to stress very much on this. Now, finally, I want to finish this webinar. We've come to the end of this webinar. I just want to finish this webinar with a very interesting book summary. There are some books that had a deep impact on me. When I shared this with Jackma sir, like he also felt that this is a great book that extras need to look into. So I thought, okay, I'll share the summary. This basically the book is 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Okay, the author is Stephen R. Covey. So he shares 7 steps. We'll quickly go through it. The first step is you be proactive in whatever you do. You take responsibility for your reactions to your experiences. I can't emphasize this more in a big company as well as small company. Small company, you will actually be pushed to be proactive. So a lot of things you will be on your plate and you have to do. But in case, suppose some of you might join some bigger organizations. So being proactive is super underrated, but it's extremely noticed by senior people in the company. It's extremely it's very well appreciated by executives in the company. So it's a very good point. And it's not just for your company or career, it's also very good in your personal life. So to be proactive. And second is a huge thing, huge productivity factor. So if you begin with the end in mind, So let's say you compose an email, right? This is more like a generic yarn. If it's boring you, I'm really sorry, I apologize. But I think if you have these 7 points in mind, it's going to be super important for you. Like for example, let's assume you want to write an email, right? Sometimes you open the task, you open it, and then waste some like 5-10 minutes, you hit writer's block or something, and then you keep procrastinating. So instead, if you begin with a clear end in mind, obviously your productivity is going to increase. You like not just this task, any task. If you try to write on the final objective in mind and then start the work, it's super effective. And the third thing, I as product manager cannot emphasize on this more. It's about prioritization, right? So it's there is something called Eisenhower matrix. I would recommend you to Google that. So basically, they are putting that only here. So what they are saying is you are trying to categorize tasks into urgent, important, non-urgent, and non-important, and then try to do it. Either do it, plan it, delegate it, or eliminate it. So so basically, they are asking you to list down the things that you have on your plate and then prioritize it. So that is one, and then always think win-win, right? So that's why I gave you the that Venn diagram. So from the start of the careers, try to think, okay, how can I add value to the company? Or let's say you are networking with someone in LinkedIn, okay, very senior person in LinkedIn. Obviously, you are the fresher there, but still you have to think that, okay, even though he's a senior director in this company, okay, through this conversation, how can I add value to him? Maybe I have some insights from Gen Z or from my generation that he might not be aware. So maybe I'll share this value. So always try to think of win-win. So you might not know all these things will come back to you in a much bigger way, much better way to you only. So always keep that in mind that you'll have to create mutually beneficial solutions in your relationships. And the fifth point is seek first to understand, then to be understood. So listen as much as possible, apply empathy, then synergize. Sixth is synergize. So combine your strengths to achieve goals that would otherwise be impossible for individuals to achieve. So ask for help whenever you are there, like when you are upskilling yourself. Definitely there will be some roadblocks. Try to ask for help, and then synergize with people, make a lot of joint projects, and then like together you can achieve a lot. And finally, sharpen the saw. Right, upskilling never stops. That this point keeps coming. We started the webinar with this, and I'd like to end this webinar with this. Upskilling, it's a continuous process, guys. Regardless of your designation, regardless you got a promotion this year, or you've been called by the Prime Minister to speak at his place, whatever it is, right? Upskilling is a continuous process. You need to keep sharpening yourself. So for that, you have to continuously renew yourself, keep reading, keep improving yourself, like keep your ears open and then keep reading a lot. So the author says that you can sharpen yourself in 4 main areas, like mental, physical, spiritual, emotional. But yeah, these things are detailed more in the book. But at this summary level, I think yeah, we can. The emphasis is that you have to keep upskilling yourself so that yeah, you remain relevant. Also, your life is more interesting. It's not only about the career, right? So okay, job is just one aspect of your life, but also to have an interesting life and then like have more passion and energy in your life. If you keep upskilling yourself, I think it's a very good way to keep have a long and a fruitful career. So with this, I think I've come to the end of the session, and I thank Stack Academy and especially Jayakumar sir once again for this opportunity. I think I'm very grateful and I'm very happy that I committed to this because this upskilling is very important and it's something that has done wonders to my career, right? So if you would have seen my career journey, I started as a mech engineer, application was somewhere, but I'm not boasting, but somehow I never stopped upskilling myself, and that helped me grow career wise, salary wise, designation wise, and everything. So I think whenever there's some opportunity that I can give back to fresh engineers, I'd always do it with fullest commitment. And the two problems they are solving, right? 2M's, mentoring and motivation. I think it's very good that you guys are getting exposed to at this point in your career. So that also is a very good point, and I really appreciate Webstack Academy in doing this. And I wish I'm always a great well-wisher to all your efforts. And thank you so much to all participants also for patiently listening in a Saturday evening, right? So it's a great task. So thank you so much.
Yeah, great. So thank you very much, Ranga, for your wonderful talk. I think there are some questions being asked about sending the materials, etc. I think we'll do that. The video,
Sure.
as I already said, is getting recorded, and we'll also bundle the presentation deck, whatever Ranga has presented. We'll put it in some common place and share as a part of a standard practice. So just whatever the closure part, it was very inspirational for me. Whatever Ranga said. So I thought a couple of things I'll add before we open up for the quiz. I'm sure a lot of students are waiting to take up the quiz. So Ranga spoke about being a continuous learner and things like that, right? So I would put in a little different word. So never allow the student inside you die. We always need to be a student and learn something. Just on a similar note, right? I don't know how many of you noticed when you're sitting in my home. There are two charts out here. The white color one, I can't zoom it. I can't take my laptop to the near to this one. The white color chart that you see is nothing but the 7 habits, whatever Ranga has mentioned. And then if you see the red color, slightly the longer one, a similar sequel to that, which I read recently, it's called Atomic Habits. I don't know how many of you heard this book. So it was really inspirational for me because I read the 7 habits of highly effective people in the year 2003. When I was in the early part of my career, and 20 years later in 2023 I read Atomic Habits, right? So I would say it has come in two different phases of my life, but it has given me a great sort of inspiration to live a life with much more fulfillment. And as Ranga said, when you get up in the morning, you get up with a lot of energy and enthusiasm, and because you also have a a habit of being a student, right? And when you talk about that, I also wanted to emphasize another point. Like, I request all of you to build a habit of reading. Read something. It may not be something very serious. It may not be something very, very. Even if it feels that reading a novel, I'll build a habit of reading. I think reading will do a whole lot of difference to you guys. And if you see further right to that, there's a habit tracker that I maintain. To keep a track of what I'm doing. Right, and there's 3 different journals I maintain in my table, and currently I'm reading one more book called India, that is Bharat, right? So totally economics and politics and the history put together, right? So the point I wanted to emphasize, which we always say in WSA and even in immersive, is that never allow the student inside you die. Always be curious. There's a lot of materials around, a lot of free materials around, rather than when we are growing up, right? There are ebooks, there are audio books. There's something called Kuku FM. I don't know how many of you heard it. Fantastic ebooks are available there in all the languages, not only English, right? So make use of all the resources, and then ensure that we all get better, on a daily basis. So thanks, Ranga, for sharing that end point, because I could pick it up from where I left off, because just behind me, I maintain that what I call as the habit wall, right? So thank you very much, and I would like to pause now and then take any get a quick update from our students. Guys, how did you find this today's workshop? I'll be announcing the quiz shortly. Just quickly want to check with all of you. How did you find today's talk? We're able to connect the information that is presented. And it's like always we say, right? Trying to put an elephant into a matchbox, right? AI is so big. Probably Ranga tried to condense in that 1.5 hours, right? But the journey begins after this webinar. Just by attending webinar, nobody becomes an AI expert, right? It depends on what you do action after the workshop. That's where he rightly called out 7 habits, right? I'm getting some inputs here. So Deepa is telling it was a great session. Need more session like that. Yeah, we'll bring in more, Deepa. Any more feedback, comments? Let it come in the chat window. I'll also read it for Ranga, so that it's not easy, taking time out on a Saturday and then be with all of you. In the meantime, let me open up the quiz and give some instructions around the quiz. Okay, many comments are coming up. I'll read them shortly. In the meantime, I would like to announce the quiz here. I hope all of you are able to see my screen. You can see here, this is a, 1 second. Let me maximize this for you guys. Yeah, so this is a link, the Google form that we have put up, and also the coupon code. Please take a note of the coupon code. I also do one thing. I'll upload in the handout section In case, you know, if you're not able to note it down, give me a minute. I think, yeah, just a minute, it's getting uploaded. Yeah, I think it's done. So guys, if you see in your GoToWebinar interface in the right side, you will see something called handout. Are you able to see a PDF that I uploaded there? So both the quiz link and also the coupon code are mentioned there. You can keep it for reference. In case, you know, our team also will be sending an email once again with the quiz link, but we will not send the coupon code, right? Coupon code, you need to note it down in the webinar itself, so that we give the advantage to you guys, right, who are attended, and you know, only they should win, right? Not somebody else who can just barge in and take the quiz, right? That's not fair. So that's the reason we make it coupon code. So are you able to see the handout? Can you just quickly tell? Are you able to see the handout section? There's a file called quiz_handout.pdf. Can you quickly confirm, you, all of you? Anyone? Okay, you're able to see the file. Let's see. Hope people are checking. Okay, anyways, I'll proceed. So that's about the quiz, and a couple of other things which you typically share. One is like people who wanted to do the course with us. You know, there's a date, and you know, we tell we'll be doing it sometime in the month of October. That's got a little bit pushed. You know, that's our team's email ID and phone number. Okay, and then we have this masterclass Telegram group where you can, you know, stay in touch with us. And then, you know, we are planning to add our speakers also. You know, not yet we added because we don't want to spam them with so many other important information. So you can just scan and you know, be a part of this. You know, what do you call the? I'll just still put it up for some time. You can just scan the QR and be a part of our the Telegram community. Okay, hope you can scan that. I think, yeah, people are able to see the, you know, see the attachment. Yeah, great, that's good to know. And also, you know, there is of course the social media. I don't know whether you are following us in social media. That's our you know, Instagram and LinkedIn. So we're just building the community, and we are just, you know, building the network. So, you know, please subscribe and like, share, subscribe, so that we can stay connected. So our commitment is to bring in a monthly webinar. That's the duration that we are working on, but may not be in December, because December, as you all know, in another week or so, students, generally people get into the holiday mode, and even the speakers, when no more we spoke, right, after Ranga's schedule today, they're all in the holiday mode. So maybe may not be in December, but definitely January we will come back with a new webinar, and also you know, keep you guys posted. So watch out for our social media about the next coming webinars, and please take the quiz. Our team will evaluate you, and then next week, you know, you will hear the winners, and our team will get in touch with you. Okay, so in the meantime, let me also read some feedback. Very much useful, says Sriraj, and then Manjunatha is telling helpful, thank you sir. Then Akansh is telling highly valuable, and then Mohammed Sai is telling hopefully connect with Ranga in future. Yes, you can connect. He's already shared his LinkedIn profile link, and anyway, this is going to come to you, the deck. You can just, you know, send an invitation to him, and then connect with our mentors offline. Thank you, Mr. Renganathan, Sekar, says Sriraj. Okay, a lot of such messages coming in. So thank you very much once again, Ranga, for your valuable time. I know it's not easy on a Saturday evening. You all have our own commitments. You all have you have a lot of commitments on the personal side, well, knowing you. So thank you very much, all the participants, for being part of this event. And last but not the least, I want to thank my team. I know Ranga knows, you know, we do a lot of background work before make it happen. I want to thank my team in WSA who've been instrumental right from the beginning, running the social media, you know, links to, and then, you know, setting up this webinar, testing it well, you know, and then post webinar activities, right? So everywhere, I want to thank my team. And that's a question from Rahul. Rahul, please, you know, please check out the, you know, check out the handout. You can see the quiz link inside that. Okay. Thank you, sir, for today's most important course, says Nabila. Very well in informative class, says Deepak. Thank you, sir, for the session, says Suhail Ahmad. A lot of feedbacks for you, Ranga. Once again, thank you very much, you know, for compressing this elephant and putting into this matchbox. Okay, so let us all derive inspiration, and as I already said, the action begins after the webinar, right? webinar is a trigger for all of you guys to derive the, this is a bias to action, right? We are biasing you to take an action. Please take action, and then you all do well. So wish you all the best for your career. On behalf of WSI, I'm signing off. On behalf of my team, Jay Kumar, once again, thank Ranga and my team. See you in the next webinar. Take care. Bye.